Euclidean geometry is a systematic study of geometry on a plane that is named after the Greek mathematician Euclid, who died around 2,300 years ago. Euclid also wrote a book about his studies called Elements, which must be a pretty good book because scholars still use it today. Euclidean geometry is done on a flat surface in space that is infinitely large with no thickness, also known as a plane. A plane is like a piece of paper, extended infinitely in all directions so that no matter how far you go, you will never reach the end, and the paper is so thin that it has no thickness at all. That large piece of thickless paper is a geometrical plane. So basically, a plane is an invisible flat surface in the middle of everywhere. But of course, in order for us to see it, planes are drawn so that it has some thickness, and maybe sometimes when we draw it, the plane does not stretch infinitely. Technically, the plane does not exist, thus Euclidean geometry does not exist. But Euclid wanted to feel smart, so he called his theory an axiom, or a postulate. A postulate is a statement that is assumed true without proof. Euclid had 4 postulates, which hopefully sums up everything in geometry. 1. A straight line segment can be drawn by joining any 2 points. 2. Any straight line segment can be extended infinitely in a straight line. 3. Given any straight line segment, a circle can be drawn having the segment as its radius and one endpoint as center. And 4. All right angles are congruent. But these 4 postulates do not define all of geometry because some people just want to prove others wrong, hence discovering non-Euclidean geometry. Euclidean geometry is simply geometry on a flat surface, whereas non-Euclidean geometry is a study of surfaces that are not flat. Non-Euclidean geometry is based on postulates and axioms that are different than those of Euclid's. And because one way to prove Euclid was wrong wasn't enough, so 2 different non-Euclidean geometries were formed. One was known as elliptic geometry, and the other is hyperbolic. The most simplest model of elliptic geometry is geometry on a surface of a sphere, or another form of curved surface. Hyperbolic geometry is geometry on a saddle-shaped surface. But how do we organize all this mess? Euclid actually had another 5th postulate. This golden postulate is called the parallel postulate, and it became the essential difference between Euclidean and non-Euclidean geometry. It states that given any straight line and a point not on it, there exists one and only one straight line which passes through that point and never intersects the first line, no matter how far they are extended. In elliptic geometry, all lines intersect one another, so there cannot be a line and a point not on the line and another line that runs through the point without intersecting the original line. Whereas in hyperbolic geometry, there are infinite lines that can run through the point without intersecting the original line. So, in conclusion, Euclid came up with 5 statements that talk about stuff that does not physically exist. Then some mathematicians decided to prove Euclid wrong and came up with the non-Euclidean geometry. And now we have to study their complicated process of thinking.
Created using Powtoon.